Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Hello kids, assholeconsulting.com. This is a follow-up request. This gentleman wanted to know my opinion about McAllister College in St. Paul. And I have a very low opinion of it, but that goes for any overpriced liberal arts college. But again, and it unfortunately ruins many kids. These liberal arts colleges ruin many kids' lives, millions of kids' lives every year. But they want to pay. They want the college experience. So the young man writes, it follows up, "Hi Aaron, thanks for your recent videos and especially the video about McAllister. My niece is very bright and has just as much hate for that school as you do or more. Why'd she go? That's one thing I don't get. After your first year, after your first semester, if you're like, what the hell is this? You should get out. You should go to community college. You should just get your credits and be done with it. A new video request for you. Please provide a quote. Many guys rate their game by their ability to attract the hottest girls who are in their early 20s or younger. However, given that most hot girls of that age are borderline retarded, spending half of their waking time on Instagram and not being able to even form a coherent sentence or return a phone call on time, what does a man's ability to get their interest and have sex with them really say about his game? Would it be more impressive if men bragged about being able to get with a 7 or an 8 rather than a 9, who maybe is not quite as young, but who's smart, funny, feminine, has a great personality, and who is interesting and fun to be around in and outside of bed? In other words, if a guy is good at hooking up with very young, hot, but ditzy girls, does it really say anything at all great about his game? Thanks, won't mention your name." I have to say it does say something about his game, but it can also be his looks. If we start earlier, let's say 18, when people go off to college, men and women they're just too new, they're too young to really have some kind of personality that is formed. You're still growing up, your brain's not fully mature. That happens at 25, I think maybe a little bit later for women. You're still a kid in many regards. And so the game may not be as couth or intriguing as a man in his 30s or a guy in his 40s. It may be very rough, but you still need some game. And I'd say probably 95% of game at that age is getting over the fear of rejection. Now, in our day, when we asked girls out in person, and there was phones, you had to ask the girl out in person. You had to call up, you know, "Mr. So-and-so, is your daughter home?" "Who's this?" "Aaron Clary. I definitely want to cup your daughter's boobies." That is still game. So there are still some skills and some game that you need to learn, and it may not be as smooth as, say, a James Bond level 35-year-old who makes his 6 figures. It may be awkward, but if you start in middle school and you work out, that's part of game too. I think it does say something for boys who can get a 9 or a 10. Because they're very picky too. They may not be marriage material, but we're talking about two different markets right then. You're not even interested in marriage when you're 18. I don't think girls are capable of marriage at 18. So it's a separate game, I would say, for a young man at 18 versus somewhat of a more middle-aged man who's looking to get married, say, at 30 or 31. So it is still game, but it's a different type of game, and it's more, I'd say, on tolerating and accepting rejection, working out, not being shy or intimidated by girls. And the sooner you learn that, I think, the better. And it's still impressive if you pull a 9 or a 10. Not to say it's not impressive if you pull a 7 or 8, that's very smart. But I don't think there are that many. As you kind of pointed out, like, girls in their early 20s are not Stefan Molyneux-esque philosophers. They're not, oh, what's his name? He passed away, the physicist. with the, was it cerebral palsy he had? Stephen Hawking's. You're just not going to see that. Now, the game, I'd say it changes, and this, I wouldn't say it's more impressive, but it's a different type of it's a different feat. It's a different skill. To pull a 7 or an 8 who is hot and interesting, and that is where you'll date enough girls in their 20s, and you're going to start to look for qualities, characteristics, and traits that are not just looks-based. And I think one of the smartest things you can do, Roosh said it best, you find someone who's a full point below you on the scale of 1 to 10 in terms of looks, and you treat her nice, and she has a real job and all that other stuff. That's where, quote, the real women are. Your marriage material is. There is no unicorn, because technically it doesn't exist. But that is your sweet spot, is once the girls are in their mid-20s, they're maturing, they're out of college, they're starting to work a job, they're not into that party scene as much. They're out there. And the ones who are like, no, I kind of want to get married, and they're looking, the more traditional gals, they'll be out there. But you gotta be on the hunt for that. You still can't be going after 9s and 10s. You can go after 9s and 10s by all means, but if you want something a little bit more mature and long term, then you gotta game the smart ones. You gotta game the interesting girls. So this form of game, I would say, is more maturity. I mean, just a girl that shows up on time. Being able to identify red flags, like we have the Clary relationship test. It's 19-point questions, and there's a core score. You're like, is dad around? Does she have student loan debt? Did she major in something worthwhile? Does she have a job? Is she not a crazy leftist? Is she not a virtue signaler? All these are what a mature man is going to look for if he inevitably wants to find a wife and get himself a solid 7 or a solid 8, where she's also intelligent and smart. Problem there, it's very rare to find women like that, but you can find them. They're rare, but you can find them. The hardest part, I think, it's not even game, but what you got to do is train your eye to find the hot librarian underneath. And a lot of gals, you'll go to where the big boobs are and the long flowing hair. That's what every guy does. Like, but you got to take a look at some girls. Look real close at them. If they got glasses or something, say, hey, that girl could be hot. Take a look at the girls that may be a little bit overweight. Say, hey, let's go run. I know people disagree with that tactic. I always said it's easier to make a fat girl thin than a hot girl nice. And so usually fat girls are nice, not always, but usually they're nicer. And it's going to be easier to get them to shed 15 to 20 pounds than it is to take a 9 and make her show up on time and get a job. So the game in that sense is men who, you don't go to the nightclubs. You're not looking for party girls. You can go to meetup groups where it's, there's a TED Talk meeting or there's some kind of seminar or something like that that's a little more intellectual. Internet game, and I don't mean Instagram or Snapchat, but more discussion boards. We're gonna have people with similar interests and similar hobbies. That's just sludging through. And you're gonna have to date a lot of gals. You have to date a lot of gals, and even putting together, I'd say, another script or another ability to have in this second stage game is to script a very good dating profile. I think that is also very key, where you can pull off the right amount of humor, wit, and cleverness, but then make it very clear that, no, I want a traditional woman. If we're going to have kids, you're going to stay at home and raise the kid, and I will provide for the family. That right there, I've told a couple of my friends to do it that way, but more diplomatic and polite, and you'll seek them out. The girls will be like, you may catch a lot of flack. And I want any girls with tattoos or student loans. But if you just say, I want a girl who doesn't have any other man's kids, looking for marriage down the road, and it's going to be a traditional nuclear family where I will be working and she will be raising the kids. And that right there, taking that stand, there'll be a lightning rod, but to the type of lightning you want. You want to get those girls. So to your question, in other words, if a guy is good at hooking up with very young, hot, but ditzy girls, does it really say anything at all about his game? It does for that stage of game, for those type of girls. He could still pull it off. The longer term game, that is still fun, but yeah, you don't want to marry these very hot, very young, but ditzy girls. You want to marry the smart ones who are kind and compassionate and loving and supporting. And so it requires a different type of game. So I'm equally impressed with both. I am. I would say like if you can pull 9s and 10s when you're 18 or 19, I think that's got like a little bit of a higher handicap because it's just so hard. It's just so hard. I mean, you got to be really good looking. These girls are not going to go out with you unless you're 9 or 10 yourself. So a lot of it is working out, which I've always respected and envied people who can work out that much. But yeah, the game completely changes to where it's a whole different set of skills where you get one that's more marriage material. So.